Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that hates when it's a weekend game where there's not very much to talk about. This week on Heart and Hand, 8-goal thriller sees Rangers thump Accies. So, welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar, I am your host, and I'm joined this week by long-time stalwart of the pod, the Livingston Lothario, best friend of Clint Hill, it's Mr. Cammy and James Bell.
David, my friend, it's wonderful to speak to you.
Explain to the people what I meant with the Clint Hill thing.
Well, Cameron, friend of the stars.
Yes.
So, I was very fortunate last week to spend some time doing a Clint Hill interview, which our subscribers on the Patreon site will now have exclusive access to. I use the term legend for Clint Hill because although he wasn't at Rangers and probably couldn't be considered a Rangers-esque legend in the truest form of the word, he was a legend in terms of being able to set that up. And what you'll probably hear from that interview was the fact that he was absolutely brand new. He was completely open and honest with his time at the club, and if anything you can take away from listening to that conversation is just how much he appreciated wearing the Rangers jersey. So if you need any reason to sign up to the Patreon site, I've now provided it for you.
There you go. After 3 months of our hard work, Cameron, with his first, it should be pointed out, sojourn onto Patreon has made it suddenly worthwhile. Joining me is a stalwart of the Patreon site, but a relative newbie here. It's our tactical genius, Mr. Adam Thornton.
Hello David, hello Cammy.
Adam, who today asked me if I would spend 160 quid a month so he could sign up to some scouting website.
I think that's fair.
It was a fairly short conversation. In all
I don't even think you spend £160 a month in rent, do you?
Well, I don't pay rent, my wife does.
Ah, there you go. So you don't?
No, I don't spend anything. We were discussing this the other day about whether or not people should cancel Sky and BT. And I said, well, there's not really any point me doing it because when I took it out, I just used all her bank account details, so she pays it. And then she never noticed it for like 14 months, and then she said, hang on a minute. And I said, well, if you haven't noticed it for 14 months, you can clearly afford it. So I won that argument hands down.
It's a good idea, but I think that my wife, when it comes to setting up direct debits, if you ever remember that Family Guy episode, you know, when like somebody's moved the thermostat and the wee thing goes off in Peter's head, I think she has that same implant.
No, well, I'm quite upfront about how, you know, she does better at this marriage than I do in terms of, you know, love and that. So I think that I should do better out of it financially, especially with me being on the professional scrap heap, Cammy and Adam, at the age of 40.
Professional scrap heap, David, yes.
Yes, so I need to just, you know, do my best. And speaking of doing their best, Rangers continued a good burst of recent form in terms of some of the match, and we're going to talk about this in a bit of detail. Cammy, you mentioned to us before the game that so much happened in this match you actually had to take notes.
It provides a degree of professionalism and organisation which seldom accompanies a Heart and Hand podcast, but yeah, it's just so much to kind of talk about and so much to kind of delve into, David, you know?
Well, a crazy first half, which finished 4-2 to Rangers, with goals seemingly flying in every 3 or 4 minutes. Hamilton took the lead after a really bad start by Rangers, and let's just go through it bit by bit. First up, Adam, bad starts. This is a thing now. This is not once every so often or something that can crop up. I feel every time we start one of these shows we are saying, so we started badly, and I'm getting a bit annoyed by it, to be honest, because it is costing us. It cost us against Hibs, it cost us against Ayr, and we did recover, and it cost us against Hamilton, and we did recover. But Hibs is an example of you can maybe get away with it against poor teams, you can't get away with it against good teams, and it's happening all the time.
Aye, definitely. I think this one was probably the worst start that we've had, potentially all season. The first 10 minutes or so, we literally couldn't string 2 passes together. We weren't even out of our half. Basically, barely out of their 18-yard line for the first 8 minutes or so. And as we've seen with the goal, Dockery and John just totally sleeping, and good finish by Lyons in the corner.
Cammy, can Wes do a bit better with that goal? Because at the time I thought good finish. But watching it now quite a few times, it's pretty central.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a concern with Foderingham when shots are hit. I don't want to say dead centre straight at him, but if you put it a couple of feet either way, I just sometimes feel if that's in the ground, he struggles to get there. Because he has been beaten by not dissimilar shots that you'd kind of think, well, I think the difficulty you've got in comparable to other goals that he's conceded of a similar nature is that the one on Sunday, because as Adam said, I think that the John tackle slightly puts him in a blindside, and I don't think he can see that until the ball's already coming at him with pace. But I would agree with you. I think I'd probably want a keeper to do better there, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I just, like I say, has it gone into the far corner, Adam, then I'm going, okay, just a really good finish. But it really hasn't. It's actually pretty central.
Yeah, I think the first one definitely. We know from Foderingham that he's pretty poor with. I know this wasn't outside the area, but it wasn't far off of it. He's conceded the most goals from outside the area in the entire league. He's got 8 at the moment, and he's tied with Thomas Cherney and McCary from Ross County, so it's definitely an issue for him. This one was a little bit further in, but as Cammy said, I think just the quickness of it, like with John, kind of caught him off guard, but for me, he should be saving it, yeah.
So Rangers then, again, and credit, after saying that we start badly, and it is starting to kind of get on my tits a little bit, but credit to Rangers that now, and I want to praise the team for this, they don't panic when they go a goal down anymore, which is great to see, and they recover and got apart. Then some fantastic play by Alfredo Morelos, beats his man, just stronger, not even a question of a foul, just wanted the ball more, as they say, gets to the byline, and then an intelligent cut back, Adam, and there's Jamie Murphy to a decent finish, actually. I think it got slightly underplayed, but I love that about Morelos, that he's so good from tight angles, because a lot of players there, without looking up, just put it across the 6-yard box, and of course there's nobody there, and then they say, well, you should have been there. He didn't do that, and he doesn't do that. He's very good at picking people out. And then later on in the half, another thing he was good, when it was the rebound from the Goss free kick that the keeper saved, he fires a shot from a very narrow angle that the keeper has to make another good stop. He is really good in, if you like, acute situations.
I think he just wants to ping it in from anywhere, you're right, but that first goal is definitely something that we've seen more and more. He's just quite tenacious. His build-up play, I mentioned on the tactics pod, his build-up play is really, really good. It's not something you immediately think of. You just think of him as a goal scorer, but his build-up plays incredible. He shouldn't have won that ball at all, but he just must outmuscle the guy who's probably double the size of him, and a really cute little cutback for Murphy.
Cammy, the second goal, which we think is, right, panic over kind of thing, comes. Nice bit of play on the left, actually, although bad defending from Hamilton for the first, really bad defending with the second, where I think it's Jamie Murphy makes the overlap, and he takes both the defenders with him. They just both run after him, which allows Josh Windass to fire a shot. Now, I just put this one down as a goalkeeping howler, because I think he's came for it in the wrong way, and he's done that thing that keepers do where they come out from it with their arms, by their sides, kind of arms sticking the bent and sticking out, and he's tried to kind of gather it into it, but I think you're on the risk of, if it doesn't hit you in the stomach or the chest, it can bounce off you, which it did. It hit him on the shoulder and then bounces up and then in. But I did see people saying you've got to give Windass a bit of credit, because he puts a lot of spin on those shots to make it difficult for the keeper. Is that maybe reading too much into it, or well done, Josh?
I think he's been a bit generous to Windass, if I'm being honest. I think if we swap scenarios and Foderingham concedes that kind of goal, we're all absolutely tamping about it. So, I definitely feel the keeper probably should have done better. It's like one of those ones where either the keeper, if it was on the ground, and you've seen this before, in fact, even Alan McGregor, if you remember, an Old Firm game, conceded a goal as, where it's so bread and butter, probably keepers just kind of go into a little bit of a kind of automatic process where they think they can deal with it, and then you're right, there's probably a bit of whip on it that they maybe weren't expecting, and because their body's not fully behind it, it squirms past them and way it goes. You've seen shots in the ground that maybe go through a keeper's legs like that. I think what's also interesting is that, and we've all done it, we're all experienced football fans, where you probably see a lot of modern day keepers now punching shots like that rather than trying to collect them. And it's probably because they've been coached in that way to say, look, you don't know how it could take a movement, you don't know what happens with it. Without going down that whole shite, footballs are totally different in the way how they're made, routine. If it does take a bit of a kind of curve away from the keeper, you've just got to get it away. And I think, as I say, to be honest with you, it's probably 90% the keeper and 10% Windass.
Yeah, I think he gets caught in two minds. For me, it's at quite an awkward height. A couple of inches higher or a couple of inches lower, and it would be a pretty good decision. But to me, he gets kind of caught between catching it and, like you said, punching it or palming it over the bar, and ends up doing none of them.
I think what would be interesting with that though is, and I wonder, and we're going to come on to the pitch in a bit anyway, but sometimes what I've also seen from direct shots like that is that the keepers take a touch of the ball to just basically take the power out of it, and then let the ball drop, and then pick, catch it, like as in it'll bounce and then catch it. And I don't know if they maybe, or the keeper maybe felt like doing that, and that playing surface, players in front of him or whatever else as well, he's just felt as if it's quite comfortable. But if you watch the game again, there's actually a number of crosses or balls that which come in, and the Hamilton defenders are actually quite comfortable heading it back to the keeper, just playing it quite tight. So I definitely feel as if the keeper's going to regret that one.
Hamilton get back into it after more fuckery in the Rangers defence, no other way to put it, that for some reason Russell Martin, this experienced centre-half, thinks the best place to clear the ball to will be right smack bang into the middle of midfield, in our half, and that's where it lands, and Hamilton head it forward. David Templeton has therefore the time, because Martin hasn't got to him after the abortive clearance, curls it into the bottom corner. At that point, it was a strange game in that, lads, even at this point I still never felt, even for a second, we were dropping points in it, because I think it was so apparent how bad Hamilton's defence were, and the three at the back that were playing, Adam, I have no idea why. When you're playing Rangers, you decide that you're going to go with three at the back and give us space wide, because, look, we complain on here sometimes about the team, but we're pretty good wide.
It was crazy, as I said during the game. If they didn't change their shape, then it could have been 10, and I think it could have been easily with the chances that we had. It just seemed like we were getting Goss and Docherty on the ball, and they were pinging those little angled passes in between the fullbacks and in between the wide centre half, and Murphy and Candace. It was just, it was like they weren't even trying at times. We've seen it in the second half as well. The amount of times Candace was not even one-on-one with somebody, but like clean through essentially when nobody near him, was ridiculous. And they did tighten up later on, but it was way too little too late.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where
I was going to say I actually felt that the worst goal that they conceded was the final one, where it's the Candace throw in. I know I'm jumping ahead, David, but I think they were horrific throughout, if I'm being perfectly honest. And that last goal, for me, can't even be blamed really in fatigue, because we're all still halfway through the second half, where that is the most simplest of goals to give away. It's just a quick throw in with Candace.
Cammy, that's a fives goal at the end when you're fucked. Yeah. When one team is completely fucking knackered. When you've when you're the team of old guys and the other team's got like two younger guys who are obviously still fitter than all of you, and you do alright for about half an hour, but then in the last 15 minutes or so, and guys are going, drag back, and you're like, I can't, mate. It's either let them go and score or spew.
But it's that thing though where you've conceded by half time. You've conceded 4 goals. Okay, so forget what they've scored. You're 4 goals down already at that stage. You need to be able to turn around and say, let's keep it tight on. And then that 5th goal, they were absolutely asleep at the back. And again, if you watch that again, Windass is at least 5 or 6 yards clear of his nearest defender to be able to finish off that square ball from Morelos. And no, I mean, it was bad. I mean, really, really bad.
Well, we then, as I say, we get the third. Greg Docherty wins the ball, plays it through. Jamie Murphy has a shot. Keeper doesn't do too bad last time, but from the rebound, Murphy very intelligently knocks it across to Morelos, who's got the straightforward finish. 4-2, I think, is the is the best, and I think is a contender for not just our goal of the season, but goal of the season full stop. Adam, you want to talk us through it?
Oh, it was brilliant. Just one touch. It's exactly what Murray has been saying he wants to do. Quick, high tempo, one touch passing, right up. Pretty much, I don't know how many players. It touched maybe 8 or so, right across the midfield, and just one of those really lovely. It was almost like a FIFA goal. Somebody goes through it and they just clip it to the side, and a wee blind pass for Windass. It was brilliant, and I'm sure we'll come on to Murphy later on. But I thought it was fantastic, and there was 2 quite similar passes where he laid off Morelos and then Windass just for easy finishes.
The thing I would say though, David, just coming back to that 4th goal though for Murphy, because I don't think you can underestimate Murphy's contribution in the game. But what I absolutely loved in the 4th goal was, if you watch that again, the fact that he has the vision to square it inside to Morelos rather than hitting it again, because he hits it and the keeper saves it. And how many times would you have seen anyone, especially somebody who's already at that stage got a goal under their belt, have another lash at it? He doesn't. He just simply puts it to the side of Morelos, and it's really, really unselfish play. And I think, as you say, the 4th goal was fantastic, but the 3rd goal, in terms of just that square across Morelos, really can't be underestimated. It was absolutely fantastic. I would
agree with you. The 3rd goal was probably my favourite, just for that, because Doherty gets cleaned out totally. Quick, but he still manages to get the quick pass to Morelos, another quick pass to Murphy. A pretty poor shot, if we're honest, and I think most people looking at Windass would probably throw their hands in the air. Murphy doesn't. He's right in to get the loose ball, which is something we've not done for ages, and it just ends up an easy finish for Morelos. So it's really good.
The 4th goal, as I say, will forever be remembered by, and I'm claiming ownership of this, but you can all use this after too, Jamie and his magic touch. See what I did there? That's one that nobody under 30 has 35 probably has a chance of getting, but older bears out there will no doubt know what I'm talking about. Second half, bit of a non-event. I know that I like to point out to a friend of mine who's a huge Kenny Miller fan that we lost 1-0 when Kenny Miller came on. But all joking aside, let's kind of wrap it up. A good win, a really good win, some great attacking play, but some really shoddy defending from Rangers. Now, Cammy, Graham Murty says after it, look, I just want to concentrate on the positives at the moment, although obviously I will analyse it. But was it a case of, and I genuinely think there's something in this, but I do want to get your thoughts on this, lads, that they almost found it too easy going forward, and the defenders weren't at it, because they sort of thought they look like scoring every time they go for, which we did, and they're sitting behind the midfield and the forwards thinking, oh man, they're ripping them apart, and the concentration levels just weren't what they should have been.
So for me, yes, because by that point, apart from the goals that we've scored and the chances that we've hit the bar twice from Morelos and Doherty. Your son misses what is effectively an open goal.
Yes, he did.
So I think it was just foot off the gas time by that stage, and I think we kind of said it amongst ourselves that at that stage it kind of looked like every single time we were going forward we're going to score. So even if we did concede another goal, it was a case of, right, we'll just go up the park and score 2 more. So there was some big concerns in there for me.
That's the thing, Adam. Usually I look at the structure, and what I would say is that Rangers currently, and yesterday, were playing with 2 holding midfielders, quote unquote, but 2 guys who are not naturally defensive minded players. Doherty, he's box to box, gets forward. I thought after a very sluggish start, he came on to a really good game. Goss, we know, is a quarterback type playmaker, good passer. Neither of them naturally sense danger, I think, in a way that a Ross McCrory or a Ryan Jack does. However, the goal still came from individual errors. You can't say that it was a structural issue yesterday. It was individual errors and a referee who likes to prove how unstaunch he is by awarding late penalties against us.
Yeah, I think obviously Doherty had a poor start. I would say he's at fault for the goal, and I would have said he had a bit of an issue in the build up to have given away the penalty against Hibs. But overall, I thought yesterday
what?
was
Not right. No, fuck off, Tav boy. Right, Tav fluffer. Right, Docherty, yes, there may have been it, but nobody is to blame for that penalty other than James Tavernier.
I thought we agreed that Scott Allen was to blame regardless.
Well, Scott Allen's to blame for a lot of things, but no, when Rangers players do stupid things, I don't blame the opposition. I blame Rangers players. Well, not Celtic.
Or Kenny Miller.
No, Stephen Naismith.
Okay.
That's the one I'd blame. But yeah, you were saying, sorry, before you so rudely made me interrupt you.
Docherty was at fault, and it's not future Hall of Famer James Tavernier that was at fault, but Docherty was at fault for the Hibs goal. But anyway, the build up to the goal, I thought he was poor. He didn't look on it at all. I don't know if it can, the occasion got the better of him a little bit, but I have to say he came on to a brilliant game. There's a clip flying about from SPFL Radar on Twitter that shows he was everywhere, really. He was breaking up play. Now, he was doing things that I didn't necessarily think. You're pointing about sensing danger. I'm not sure I really agree. If you watch that video, the amount of interceptions and nicks of the ball he gets, I think positionally he might be onto something, but he was everywhere really for the last hour of the game, and I thought he was really, really good. I've been banging the drum. I think your broader point is having those two there doesn't offer us enough protection. I totally agree. I've been banging the drum on the Tactics pod for I'm desperate to see Goss, Docherty and McCrory as a midfield three. I think that will be brilliant. I think they've got absolutely everything that we would need in there. But you're right, they don't offer a lot of protection, and against better teams they'll get swamped, I think, as we've seen against Hibs with Goss and Holt, who's kind of similar to Docherty.
One thing I think we need to mention at this point, Adam, is that you need to watch that. Say when you say brilliant, you sound like that cunt from the AO advert that wants a big telly. Family Night is great. It's got such a good picture. It's brilliant. So just watch that, because round here we speak the Queens.
Sorry for being eloquent. I'll try better in the future.
You're not eloquent using the word brilliant, right? That's a pretty straightforward word.
Boys, can we just get back to the footy,
please?
Well, no, for fuck's sake, Cameron. Oh, just weighing in. You've been in the East Coast too long. There's only one person on this pod that's allowed to use the term footy.
And it's your BFF.
And it's, you can't talk, Mr. Clint Hill. Me and Clint, I'm going to go and talk to Clint. So, Cameron, you did want to make a serious point about your friend and mine, Mr. Bobby Madden, who is in danger of getting suspended from the Lodge if he keeps this shite up. Late penalty decision. Go on.
He's right, the penalty decision's right. It's a stupid thing to do by Martin. And his second costly mistake of the game, because I know we talked about it earlier on, but when Templeton scores, Templeton's in Hamilton and Russell Martin's in Bovril. That's how far away he is from him. But when you talk about the penalty, it's a stupid thing to do, and I think that's now twice that he's done things like that where he needs to just probably sharpen up that period of his game. The point I wanted to make, right, was
I thought it was harsh, and I don't see, and you're a ref, how's it a booking?
Because it's pretty standard fare. It's the laws of the game.
But accidental handballs you rarely see get a booking for. Like deliberate ones, yes. But
if it can't be an accidental handball if he's also given a penalty for it. So he's saying that he's done it deliberately. It's a deliberate action. And then
do you really think he's deliberately stuck his arm out and that? Because I mean, if he does, he should be in goal, because that's Gorham-esque reactions. I don't. Let me put it like this. I don't think that he's deliberately stuck up to stop the ball. I think he's done very little to move it. Let's put it like that. Because actually when he falls, he keeps his arm in position as he's doing the slide tackle. And what he should be doing at that stage is bringing his arm down, which, albeit, puts the ball across and puts it by him. But if he keeps his arm where he is, like he did, he's at danger of conceding it. And we spoke before, and it happened up at Dingwall, where what you're doing at that stage is you're making the referee's decision for him. That game was out of sight at that stage. It's the easiest penalty Bobby Madden will ever have to give, because he knows that 5-3, what difference does it make when you're talking about 3 minutes left in the clock or whatever it was at that stage. So I do think it's a silly thing to do, and I think he needs to wise up a bit. I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed he wasn't touch tight for Templeton for the second Hamilton goal.
But that's a silly penalty to give away, especially when the game's pretty much done as a contest by that stage.
You're so much less staunch now. You're a referee, you know that.
No, I'm not. The thing is, though,
you used to get your round in the district and start 10 German bombers, and now look at you.
So I'm totally fine to turn around and actually I'm going to criticise Bad in a minute, but if you dish it out, you've got to take it, Davey, and this is where I think that Martin needs to be able to try and look at where his positioning is in terms of what he does with that. The point I wanted to make, however, more so about Bobby Madden was it was a bit inconsequential, fortunately, but we will always talk about where referees have probably fucked Rangers over to some degree. So you two were just talking about the Tavernier challenge, all of that kind of stuff as well against Hibs at home. The problem that I've got with Bobby Madden is there was a period at the start of, towards I think it was the midway point of the first half, where Windass just looked to be able to try and trap the boy lying, the boy who scored the first goal, is coming across the top of him, and Windass, I mean, it probably for me is a free kick actually to Rangers, but Windass more or less kind of collapses. The boy overturns and lands in his head, and actually there was quite a significant amount of injury time. I don't know if the two of you remember this or not.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
If you watch that again, actually it looks bad. Now, I'm not saying anyone's at fault here, but what I'm saying is that similar to the challenge that was made on Docherty, which Adam pointed out previously, Madden has to go back and actually look at these and take into account the fact that he's playing on an artificial surface, because that was a very bad injury that Lang could have received, but there was no stoppage in play. If you watch that sequence again, it only stops when we receive the ball and we're about to come forward, and then at that stage Madden looks and sees that there's a player still on the ground. His assistant doesn't even say anything to him. But with the Docherty challenge, Docherty was wiped out at that point, and it's just fortunate that it led to a goal. That player wasn't even spoken to after that challenge was completed.
No, he forgot. And quite clearly,
if we're going to have artificial surfaces, referees need to accommodate for how that surface can have impact injuries. And I don't believe for a single minute that Bobby Madden did that. And how the fuck you get to 75 minutes in that game with some of the challenges that were getting carted about without producing a yellow card is beyond me. I mean, it is honestly beyond me. There was one in particular on Docherty, not the wipeout, but another one where the boy followed through him and booted him right in the shin. Again, not even a conversation. I just don't get it. I do not get where this refereeing standard is at the moment.
Adam, is a lot of it to do with the fact that it's easier to keep your cards in your pocket in a game that's pretty much dead and everyone knows is dead? And by the time I remember the incident Cammy's talking about with Docherty, the game was dead.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, but I guess you could see it the other way. Surely it's easier to book them at the same time. I was baffled by that one. I thought it was a clear cleaning out, and I think it's probably been not forgotten about, but he's probably thought he could get away with it because he led to a goal.
I think that there was a degree of sympathy, I think, at certain points, but I don't think you can give penalties because you feel sorry for them. I don't think you can avoid bookings because you feel a bit sorry for, oh well, they've just conceded. I don't think it's supposed to work like that, but we've said it before because it's true. We get refereed to a different standard, and considerations are brought onto the field by referees that have got nothing to do with the actual game that they're reffing, and consciously or subconsciously it's affecting their decision making processes. And that, Cammy, is why I think that you get this wild differential and this lack of consistency when it comes to Rangers matches, because the rest aren't refereeing naturally the way they would Motherwell St Johnstone, for example, where they'll just go out and referee. I think that there's so much shit that's been put inside their head deliberately, let's be honest, that they're going out there and they're not able, they're reffing within themselves, if that makes sense.
No, and I get that, and I think that now we're back in a situation where yet again within the space of 4 weeks we're talking about, and we're using the same phrase, we've made the referee's decision for him. And the sad thing about that is that suggests referees are looking to be able to try and give something against this. That's a touch of paranoia, I suppose, but that's paranoia based on quite a lot of concerted evidence week on week. So is it paranoia, or is it now we're coming back into, well, this isn't about bent refs per se, it's about refs who think it's easy to give decisions against Rangers once Rangers are in a winning position. And to come back to that point regarding Martin, so I agree with you before, and Adam won't like this, But I do think that the penalty against Hibs was Tavernier's fault. I get that. But I think that if we are up by a country mile and the game's running out to an end, I think it's really straightforward to be able to give penalties against Rangers at the moment.
Unfortunately, but may well play into goal difference, which might be a thing now, having results at the weekend, but we will come to that. Before we do, a batch of new contracts have been signed, offered, and in some cases rejected last week at Rangers, with Adam's hero James Tavernier signing to 2021. There's also a new deal for Josh Windass, who's signed to 2021. David Bates was offered a new deal and rejected it, but is expected to at least receive a second offer. And there's also talk of contract extensions for a couple of other players as well. So, first of all, Adam, you must be very happy.
Delighted, yeah. Just vindication of what I've been saying for the last couple of months, really.
But how so?
Because he's great and he deserves the contract and he deserves to be the captain. So, yeah.
Because he's great. I love him. He has been. Cammy, all joking aside, James Tavernier, I think, has been a far better player this season than at any point in his Rangers career.
He has been. I think he's been aided tremendously by Daniel Candeias. So I think if we're going to name a stand after him, we should probably consider naming a corner after Candeias. But he has. He's listened. James Tavernier has the mentality I wish Josh Windass has. That's probably the best compliment I can pay him, because he's got tremendous amounts of skill. He is tightening up areas where he has underperformed. Probably started this season, certainly towards the tail end of last. And he's, fundamentally Tavernier's proven himself as an asset, and I think he's taken to the captain role really well. And I was thinking about this on Sunday watching the game. See, if I'm being perfectly honest, even if Wallace come back into it, I think he has to fight to get the captaincy back, because Tavernier's done a great job with it so far.
I think if you're looking at long term, a guy who's going to play every week and, you know, consistently be in the side, who has committed his future to the club, then yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's a guy you can give that role to and be secure he's going to hold it for a few years now, whereas Lee Wallace, both because of age and injury, might not necessarily be the case. But I think Cammy's right, and Adam, given what you want to do to James Tavernier, him tightening up must be good news to you.
It certainly is. He's one of those players that we spoke about on the pods in the past, and maybe me and you have had chats about over the last couple of years, that you know somebody's a good player, you can see it, and what you think is, oh, they're not very consistent, or they're lacking in mentality, when sometimes, as Cammy pointed out, it could just be down to their partnerships on the park. Candeias being there, maybe being a little bit more solid central defence-wise, maybe not much, and also having a bit more of a presence with Jack and McCrory in defensive midfield, and even having a bit more firepower up front with Morelos. All of those little interactions that Tav has, the players that he's interacting with have improved immeasurably in the last 2 years. So he's one of those players, I think, that looks even better in a better team, and I think we're seeing that this year.
I would say that he did say in his press conference before the Hamilton match that he singled out Daniel Candeias and the partnership, and did say that he feels that that's had a huge effect on him, because we have to remember a lot of the time he was playing that wing himself effectively, because up front there would be a striker who nominally would be on the right, but who really, you know, Mackay on the left would track back, but the guy on the right, generally speaking, say Waghorn, pretty much wanted to get into the middle and score goals, which was fine, but it did leave Tav exposed an awful lot, although there were a lot of mistakes in his game. I mean, he used to drive me nuts with the back post thing, which again has improved, and his display at Parkhead earlier this season was, I think, the best that he's played for Rangers. I think he was outstanding that day. Now, the other new signing, or new contract signing rather, extended, was Josh Windass. And I must admit, I've gone 180 on Josh Windass, the player, because at the start of the season, I wasn't a fan. I thought he was a poser, thought he flattered to deceive. But he contributes, and now you can't deny he's contributed. He's got 9 goals in 5 games. Admittedly, against maybe weaker sides, there's no doubt about that. But he is now starting to look like a guy who you know can damage teams. And he has got goals against Aberdeen and Hibs, so you can't say he exclusively scores against the smaller side. Cammy, if nothing else, here's a guy, Tav's another one. You've got to get these guys signed up simply because it increases their value and they are sellable.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tavernier's style of play, I think, suits most modern English teams in terms of what they've been able to try and get out of it. Windass, I think, gets a great degree of freedom in terms of the Rangers team that he plays in, which I don't know if he could replicate if he was to move down south. That being said, I want to say his second goal on Sunday, where he picks the ball up in the middle of the park. If you trace his movements with that, this is something that was spoke about before in the pod, that actually he's a very positive player from being able to move forward, be involved in interactions in and around the halfway line, and then move forward even without the ball, but continue to press and continue to penetrate, and then again, like you say, potentially be on the end of it. The main thing with Windass is that he's looking at being able to try and contribute no matter what he's doing. And Adam touched on the point earlier on, and it's a great point regarding the Murphy Square ball. Likelihood is if Windass hits that, it's head and hands time. He doesn't even think about what he could do thereafter. If he can try and maintain that consistency, he's going to do well. And right now, what he's done, what Windass has done, is put himself into a position where he's unplayable. And that is where he will be in the team sheet. He'll be able to maintain his position, and he's done that himself. There's no denying that. What he needs to do is maintain that. So when he plays against the tougher teams, and he's got one on Saturday, he needs to replicate it against them. And with all due respect to Aaron Hamilton, that's not where you shine. You shine against the top teams.
Adam, he has a manager who I think at times gets a bit exasperated with him. It's very much the manager who I think sees a lot in somebody and really wants to get it out of him. And some of the things, I mean, the Graham Murray quote a couple of weeks ago was fantastic. I thought what he said, I don't know why he's done that, but then again, I don't know why he does a lot of the things he does. And you could tell there that he's constantly on him, and he's having to work on him, but he really believes in him, and that I think can't be overstated enough. He's got a manager who, no matter what, absolutely believes in him and wants him in his side.
Yeah, he's been having a couple of little digs at him in the press, but you know that's just because of the type of person Windass is. He thinks he's better than he is, as good as he's been, so he's bringing him down a peg or two in a constructive way. The Fraserburgh game that you mentioned after match, it was really interesting watching Murray kind of dissect his play and saying, I don't want him to be dropping deep into midfield, I want him to be on the last shoulder. He's not, he didn't go as far as saying he's not technical enough to drop deep and create the chances, but that's not his game. He's physical, he's got pace and power, and he can finish. So
he's not technical enough to do that. He's not technical enough to be a number 10. I think he fancies himself as a number 10, but he isn't. That's not his game. He's exactly what you say. He's pacey, he's powerful, he times his runs fantastically, and he can finish. But the idea of sitting him behind a packed defence and asking him to play passes a la, David Silva, is no. He just doesn't have that in his locker, in my opinion, or in Graham Murray's opinion, clearly.
What would be interesting though, when you're talking about, because I think the thing is though, what we're talking about now with Windass is more plaudits based on his performance. His attitude is getting less. But I tell you one thing, what would be really interesting would have been if he hadn't scored when he did on Sunday, and Murty still took him off. Because I think that once he finished off a hat-trick, Murty, listen, we'll probably come on to it, was horrendously slow with making his substitutions on Sunday, as is a characteristic of his. But what would have been interesting would have been Windass's reaction if he took him off before he got his hat-trick.
Yeah, possibly. But I think it's a tough one, because at the moment there are a lot of people out there who I don't think Josh Windass is as loved as his contribution might have made him, in a way that maybe Alfredo Morelos is, for example. I'm not sure Josh Windass inspires those same feelings, and I wonder if it's tied up in, as Adam says, he gives off a certain vibe, which is, I'd agree with that he thinks he's better than he actually is. As good as he is, it's the old you're fit but don't you know it kind of thing. And I wonder if that maybe comes across to the fans a little bit, and that's why he's just not as universally loved as a guy playing the way he's playing and doing the things he's doing normally would be, Adam.
No, I agree, but on the flip side, you really can't ignore the stats. It's actually frightening. Since Murty came in, we've played 17 league games since Murty came in. Windass has 9 goals and 5 assists in those games, which is ridiculous, and that doesn't count the 5 goals in 2 games in the Cup. I seen an interesting thing yesterday. I can't remember who shared it, but he's actually scored more goals in the last 5 games than Celtic have, which is ridiculous when you think about it.
I think it was actually Paddy Power that shared it. I think it was actually.
It's a joke, but yeah, you're right. You compare him to Morelos, and it's an interesting one because Morelos doesn't really give us anything apart from major spam on social media in terms of giving back to the fans. And he doesn't really speak. You never really hear from him, but he just seems instantly more likeable than Windass is.
Windass is, to be honest with you, everything he does in a park he gets undone on social media because he acts like a dick at times, and this is where he needs to wrap some of that stuff out and just think more cautiously about it. There's a thing where he did a screenshot of him and Jamie Burr-Jones talking on WhatsApp, and he talked about, I think you'll do well, probably score 3, and then obviously it happened. And listen, that's great, but obviously that screenshot never sees the light of day if he'd come on and had a stinker.
Well, no, but of course not.
I know, and I get about the point I'm trying to make is though that it's all his stats and all that are all well and good, right? And we could turn around and say, well, Murty's doing a really great job with them, but then not that long ago we were all slating Murty for where we were sitting at in terms of his overall performances at home in the league. So this is again coming back to he needs to be able to do it more consistently. He needs to do it against the tougher teams, and the fans will all take to him. And it's just a weird one. There was a previous pod we were talking about it where we don't understand as to why we've got that little bit of hesitancy to fall in love with Josh Windass, but people will fall in love with Jason Cummings because what the two of them, and it's not Cummings' fault because he's still brand new, but what Windass has contributed within the last month has been phenomenal. But yet people are quite happy to slate him when he does do something really stupid or acts too cocky and maybe oversteps the line slightly.
That's a really good point. I think Cummings is generally lauded for his arrogance, whereas we're deriding Windass for it. It's quite an interesting narrative.
But Cummings' arrogance, I think, is less. There's a more comedic element to it.
Yeah.
That you think that his tongue might be kind of in his cheek a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Sometimes it just comes down to feelings. We're sitting here trying to rationalise it and explain it. And I go back many years ago to a guy that was abusing Tony Vidmar terribly in a match, and I eventually turned around and I was like, "But what's your problem? He's playing quite well." He went, "I just don't fucking like him." And that was it. And sometimes that's all it comes down to, and there's not really much you can do about it if that's the case. I like him because, as I say, he's gone 180 for me in terms of at the start of the season I just thought there was nothing there, and I was completely wrong, clearly. And I think that I know what you mean, Cammy, when you say he needs to do it against the better teams, because once he does, and I think he will, once he does, I love an arrogant bastard who talks shit and backs it up. Maybe the concern for some people at the moment is that he's doing too much of the talking shit based on too little. That, yes, he's got goals, but Fraserburgh, Ayr, Hamilton. But I would love him to go on a run of doing it against, obviously, I would love him to go on a run of doing it against the kind of, you might say, upper reach teams, and then he can be as arrogant as he wants.
I can just hear Alex in my head here contesting that, so I'm going to do it on his behalf. He has scored against Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen.
I said that earlier.
I don't necessarily think it's an issue with that. I think it's just a personality thing. I think maybe it'll take the winning against Celtic or something to get him over. But it's like you said, it's people with entrenched views, and I'm probably quite similar to you. Even up until I was still moaning about him in the Partick Thistle game, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
You were, yes.
It takes people a bit of time to get round to, is this really consistency, or is he just the way he was last year? And if he's still doing this at the end of the season, I think he'll go into next season as winning quite a lot of people round.
Yes. I think based on that, he could not have picked a better time to play Hearts based on his form and his performances recently. What you have to look out for, though, and this is sometimes that he is also very guilty of, is if the game's not going his way, he downs tools very quickly. and can start to miss out sections of the game and become slightly anonymous. So he has no reason whatsoever to do that against Hearts at home when he's sitting on back-to-back hat-tricks. So for me, I think the proof of the pudding is going to come on Saturday.
Well, speaking of that, in a more general sense, I think it's going to be interesting. It'll be an interesting build-up because I think we've all been quite amused by Craig Levein, who's clearly on his no fucks left to give tour currently. And he knows this is probably his last big job. In fact, it's undoubtedly his last big job. He's not going to get any bigger. He's not going away. He's had he's got at Scotland, and now he's just going to say what the fuck he likes. And I dare say he'll have a bit of fun with us as well. And I hope we react to it a wee bit less wee boy like, great and wee Wayne like that Lennon and Celtic did. I hope that we just laugh it off, and genuinely I hope that if he says anything about our players or Murray, they just go, it's just Craig Levein being Craig Levein. We know that. I think he's just having a bit of fun at the moment, and more power to him for that. Because he did get right under their skin, and that's always highly amusing. Speaking of getting under skin, now Celtic dropped 2 points on Sunday to St Johnstone. It was a good old-fashioned day, wasn't it, that we were playing and they were playing, and they dropped points quite quickly. And a lot of Bears started going, this season isn't over yet. And while on the one hand, I've been hurt before, lads, and I don't want to get too caught up in it, there is the other bit of me that goes, well, do you know what? Fuck it. Our aim might not necessarily to win this league this year is just, let's not think about going first so much as just cutting this lead down and then see where we are at the split. I believe that, but then on the other hand, I'm looking at our home form and going, can I legitimately believe this based on the fact that yes, I expect us to win pretty much every game away from home, but right now we're going into a game on Saturday, Cammy. I don't have a fucking clue what Rangers are going to turn up.
Nah, you don't, and that inconsistency is what's killing us. And we're seesawing at the moment between fucking tears and glory as it kind of stands, because you feel as if we've got the opportunity to do it. I think the problem that you've got, right, is this is unlike anything any of us have ever went through before, where we are starting to cut the distance, and now we're within reach of being able to get to them. So people overextend that and get very excited about being able to catch them and all the rest of it. I still believe the stretch is too much for us just now, which is fine, because you and I would be the fucking first ones to be turning around and saying if we were regressing and we were getting further away from Celtic than we were last season, unacceptable, the board has to fucking go, blah, blah, what have you. We are incrementally improving in terms of where they are. What's amazing about it, though, is that we aren't improving. Celtic are getting worse. How the fuck you get there, I've got no idea. But that's what you're going to start to see from the mainstream media. So the difficulty with that is that I'm turning around and saying, well, it's great if Windass can do it against the big teams. So do we. We need to do it against the big teams. We need to beat Hibs at home, when the fucking challenge comes, and we need to be able to beat Dundee when we have to. And that weekend was the first time that our closest challengers in terms of Aberdeen and Celtic have dropped points, and we've been able to close that gap for quite a long time, which is why it's been really, really refreshing to see it.
Adam, dance for me tactics monkey. Why are we so pish at home?
I talked about it on the tactics pod yesterday, and I think it's a bit of expectation. It's a bit of still being a bit of a immature team in terms of how we're playing together, and lacking the guile to break down two banks of four. We need to be on the front foot more at home. We need to. I think some of the stuff that we've seen, okay, it's been against Ayr and Hamilton, but some of the stuff that we mentioned there in terms of playing insightful balls in between the fullback and the centre half, the quick one-touch passing that we're seeing, if we can bring that type of stuff into our game. There was actually a really interesting point on the tactics pod from Ali, who said that he felt that Tav and John yesterday were stationed about 10 or 15 yards deeper than they actually are usually, and it was in an attempt to bring the Hamilton wing backs forward a little bit so that we could play those passes. So Murty's quite astute tactically in that sense, so I'm sure he's got plans to look at ways that we can draw Hearts out. Hearts have been doing okay. I've not looked at their stats recently, but they've certainly been doing a lot better under Levine, so I think they'll be coming to have a go. I don't think they're necessarily going to sit in as much as a Hamilton or a Kilmarnock would do, so I think teams like that we're totally fine against. It's struggling to break down the much more defensive teams.
Cammy, you're out there beyond the wall in the East. What are the Hearts fans feeling at the moment?
Positive and encouraged, and
because they weren't happy when Levine got the job, were they?
Well, they weren't, but then he's doing what every good manager should do to win round an unhappy fan base, and that's winning games and provide sound bites. And I mean, I'm not saying that Scott Brown's an easy target because he is a Cro-Magnon. However, when you bully the fucking disadvantaged, we all find it hilarious because it's Scott Brown. What I hear and see from Hearts fans is that they really feel that with the stadium development, with the signings that's bringing in, Naismith was a big name for them to capture.
He was.
There's probably a surge of optimism going through the place at the moment, and the thing is, you can't replicate that. You can't falsify it in some way, or have a facsimile of it. All these things added together are doing it, and plus, more than anything else, they've got Kyle Lafferty. So why else, would Hearts fans be anything other than overjoyed at the moment?
Yeah, well, the fact that they come from Edinburgh and are Hearts fans, I think, would be pretty high up that list.
But they have Kyle Lafferty. I don't know if you heard that bit. I know the signal broke up a little bit.
That was God. Just say, I'm going to save this boy from further embarrassment. And he said,
God just wishes it was Kyle Lafferty.
Oh, dear Lord. And Adam, is it as simple as just teams are more defensive against us? Is it really that simple? Because surely at home it's not like they all suddenly throw off the shackles and go, right, we're going to get tore in. Or is it actually that basic?
I think it's obviously got a bit more nuanced than that, but I think at a very basic level, yes, it is. It's so difficult. I think people underestimate how difficult it is to break down two banks of four that are very, very well organised, and they're quite happy just to kick it the way they're facing and clear the ball. But at home, they naturally probably feel that they can have a little bit more of a go and they're a little bit more adventurous, and that's why I think we've seen how good their away form is. If you look at the 17 league games since Murty came in, the galling thing is that we're actually a point behind Celtic. We've got 34 points and they've got 35. And you look at, even if you discount the Hibs game as something that could potentially happen, as painful as it was, you look at those
because your player cost, is it?
Yeah, because Tab threw it away.
That was the inference, yeah, but you took it from me. That's fine. But if you look at the games that are more galling, as the Kilmarnock one, the St Johnstone one, the Dundee one, the Hamilton one, you pick up half those points, or even 3/4 of those points, and that's you in a title race. That's the galling part of it. And all three of those games were at home, which is just unacceptable.
I think that was something that made me giggle slightly about Brendan Rodgers' comments after the match. Now, if you saw the Celtic lineup the other day, they picked a weaker lineup, and I hadn't realised how much weaker until I read it, when it actually included two supporters, Jim Craig, Steve McGahan. So he got criticised. He clearly doesn't like criticism, and he blamed St Johnstone for not letting Celtic beat them by saying, oh well, you look at their results and that's something that their manager needs to look at and all that. After saying that he doesn't like when Craig Levine talked about his team because he doesn't talk about other people's teams. And interestingly, St Johnstone's last win came at Ibrox, so clearly they do raise their game on occasions and win matches or get something in matches that they shouldn't. They're not the first football team to have done that. But I think maybe the frustrating thing, Cammy, is that you, Adam, every Rangers fan I know would like, I'll say this in the most conservative way I can, would at least like to see what would happen if we could put some pressure on Rodgers.
Listen, I'd love to see it as well, and I think, we've spoken about it before. I believe we all know through our relative associations Celtic fans who, in their truest heart of hearts, dislike where they currently are. They do not like being top of the mountain. And if in actual reality we start to close the gap and put that pressure on, they've got a great opportunity to return to a victim status. And what's great about Rodgers is he exudes that as soon as the pressure even starts to come near him. If I'm being perfectly honest, I thought his comments on Sunday about the St Johnstone players were fucking outrageous. And fair play to Tommy Wright for not coming back and having a response back to that. And what's quite funny about it is I think probably Craig Levein would have.
In a fight though, Tommy Wright would fucking leather Brendan Rodgers.
Which is fine, but then, you know what I mean, everyone would hold his jacket whilst he was doing it.
Yeah, he'd probably get lifted for sectarian hate crimes right now.
I don't really think it is fair play to Tommy Wright, if I'm honest, because he wasn't shy in coming out and criticising Coutinho. If he's man enough to do that, then he should be man enough to say something against Rodgers for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's a fair comment, I get that. But then I'd also say that Coutinho was an easy target for every man in his dug. But I think that when you're turning around and basically having a go at the St Johnstone players, and Davey praises it beautifully for not allowing them to beat you, I think that's an absolute fucking disgrace. And I don't care if it was a second string Celtic select or not. There's still plenty of quality within that team that should have beaten them at home. But if you watch the highlights of that game, fucking the fans never turned up to it, so why should the players bother turning up to it?
That's a fair point. Like I say, Adam, I'm not saying, by the way, that if we put pressure on them that they will definitely crack, but I would like to see what would happen if we got a wee bit near them, because this is them dropping 2 points and us getting back to 9, and you can feel it. You know, you can feel the kind of decibels rising from the, or hear the decibels rising from these, and you feel the temperature going up. And if we got it back to 6, 4, right, still a big gap. You know, it would take a big effort to do that and maintain it, but it would be interesting.
It would be really funny for one, because they'll just be hysterical about it. I don't for one minute think we're going to win it, but you're right. If it gets to within 2 games worth, it will be interesting to see Celtic fan reactions. I seen a tweet today saying I think Rodgers should go at the end of the season and we get Neil Lennon back in because he knows what it's all about. So that type of thing will be very interesting if we get down to a bit further into single figures.
I think, you know, and again, don't want to talk too much about Celtic, but I think 5 minutes at the end of the pod is acceptable. But I have a friend who's a Liverpool fan, a Liverpool season ticket holder, so this is long before Rodgers picked up at Celtic. One of his pet peeves, he's like, the problem with Rodgers was after that season, you know, they should have won the league season. He says he's walking up and down the touchline and he's walking into press conferences like he's fucking Bill Shankly, and he said he does realise he didn't win it. And when all this has gone down second season at Celtic, he said this is exactly what he did with us. Bit of success when he's concentrating on the job because he is a good coach and when he feels he's got something to prove. Second, that he gets the success, the God complex overwhelms him and he can't see the wood for the trees. And that reaction was completely idiotic and completely out of whack with where it put him in the league and what it actually meant. I mean, he should have just went, well, we had to make changes, in the middle of 2 big games, we're still 9 points ahead, well done to St Johnstone, and that would have been the end of it. And instead he's given people like us the opportunity to point and laugh at him.
But he's turning around though, David, right? And not only that, but he can supplement that with some more stuff. Turn say, well, I've already won the 3 major domestic trophies so far this season. Potentially I'm looking at back-to-back trebles. Who the fuck is anyone in this country to turn around and say that Celtic aren't progressing under my stewardship? Now, what's really interesting to this is all we're talking, and it's 9 points, right? And as I said before, it's the first opportunity really we've tried to make ground on them since slipping up in the league, and Aberdeen slipped up in the league as well, and we've really capitalised on the opportunity. But what's really interesting about it is it's not as if we are, as Adam says, in, let's say, low single figures. If we are legitimately within touching distance, we are still a number of miles off. No win, right? I think we are something like 66-1 to win the league or something like that at the moment. I mean, it's still well out of terms of possibility, in my opinion. But already with that slight turn of the screw, they can start to see him panicking a little bit, and that's what I'd love to see. And I think I think there's a part of him that's worried if he gets through against Zenit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's a part of him that worries he gets through against Zenit, but then not only that, if he then continues on in the Scottish Cup as well, already you'll start to hear, but it's a fixture congestion. We've got game after game, etc., 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 and then that's when the excuses come out.
No, very interesting, and a lot in the next few weeks, hopefully. But of course, we need to not fuck it up by losing to Hearts, and we will have a full preview of that.
Can I give you a point on Hearts? I know you've got the preview later on, but you mentioned there about how we win the game, and I think the key to the game, and we've probably underplayed it a little bit, but the key to the game on Saturday for me is Jamie Murphy. I thought he was brilliant again yesterday. I've been championing him on the tactics board for a while, and I'm quite happy that he's now starting to add tangible assists and goals to his game. So I think I'm going to be quite contentious about it. But if he keeps going the way he's going, then Tav might have a bit of a rival in my heart. It's quite interesting as well. I seen a little tweet earlier on. I mean, we know that Candace is widely acknowledged as being the best creator in the league, and he's in the running for Player of the Year. There's been a few stats flying about Jamie Murphy. Quite a small sample size, but he is rampaging ahead of Candace by about 1.5. So if you look at things like key passes and expected assists, he's miles ahead of him. Obviously, it's five games versus 25 games, but that could be really interesting. I think he'll be the key. He's going to be a really good player for us.
I think another thing for me, away from Murphy, that can't be really overlooked is the threat that Goss gives us from set pieces. So not just from corners, but from free kicks as well, because he was very unlucky. The keeper produced a great save on Sunday against the Goss free kick, and I think that there's a real weapon within his left foot.
Well, we could talk about this all night, but unfortunately I don't want to. So with that in mind, I will just remind everyone, if you do want to hear this all night, that there's hours and hours and hours of excellent content, including Cammy's Clint Hill interview and Adam's tactics shows, and tons of other great stuff on our subscription site, patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Heart and Hand, and it's $1.99 per month or $3.99 per month if you want to invest a wee bit more and get a bit more content. And people seem to really like it, so please go and give it a try. But if not, and you just like the two free shows, we are very, very grateful to you for continuing to support us this way. We'll be back on Thursday night with the Hearts preview in a lot more detail, and obviously we'll have a bit more team news by that stage. So all that it means for me to do then is to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Myers, to thank my guests tonight, first of all the wonderful Mr. Cameron and James Bell.
It's been a pleasure talking to you both, boys.
The delightful Adam Thornton.
Thanks, guys.
My name's David Edgar, and I'll talk to you again on Thursday. Cheers, bye.